What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on this series with Kade Cunningham and Detroit Pistons going against the Orlando Magic, right? And ever since Kade Cunningham has came into the league, I like Kade Cunningham because he's improved every year that he's been in the league, right? And so from last year to this year, they improved. And some of the things that I'm seeing with Kade Cunningham, needs to improve on, and that is his defense. Like one play, I watched this play yesterday, well, in their last game, and Kade Cunningham, man, went all the way just like 90 feet down the sideline and wind up dunking on Jalen Dern, right? And that's not the first time I've seen Kade Cunningham get taken by his man, down near the length of the court. And I was like, damn, man, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. And I think Kade Cunningham is a better defender than that. All he had to do was cut the guy off. And there have been some other things that Kade Cunningham has done that I think he's going to have to improve on. Um, because really they supposed to be the favorites, but the Orlando Magic really is just out hustling them. Out, they're playing more physical than they are, and they're exposing the fact that on top of that, Kade Cunningham is really their only consistent offensive threat. Sometimes the guy Tobias Harris, he can be he a little up and down, but Jalen Dern, he has some work to do too. Another thing about Kade Cunningham is like his turnovers. And I noticed this with a lot of teams these days, like with this positionless basketball, teams feel like they don't need a point guard. I don't like Kade Cunningham bringing the ball up the court and setting the offense because it's just like the point guard mindset is a whole different mindset from a scorer's mentality. And so when you have somebody like Kade Cunningham focusing on bringing the ball up, setting the offense, that kind of leaves too much room for a mistake. Like, because a point guard is focused on so many different things that Kade Cunningham, he's not a natural point guard. So Kade Cunningham wouldn't be focused on things that a point guard is focused on, as far as like running the offense, getting everybody set. So that's why I think this positionless basketball that a lot of teams play in the NBA, I think it's going to go by the wayside, because when you have somebody as talented as Kade Cunningham, you don't want him doing everything. Of course he can bring the ball up, but he's not like Kade Cunningham is not like, what's the guy name in Boston? Pritchard. Like Pritchard is a pure point guard, right? He's a pass first guard. But you don't want Kade Cunningham. That's just two different roles. And you don't want to have Kade Cunningham playing two different roles, right? So I want to play some audio from this guy I was listening to, and he bring up some good points about Kade Cunningham and what's going on with Kade Cunningham. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this audio, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to give more input into Kade Cunningham.
Hey, Pistons are down 3-1, and Kade Cunningham is the number one reason why. 7 turnovers per game in the series. In games 2, 3, and 4, he has 24 turnovers. That's the most turnovers over a 3-game stretch in NBA playoff history. That's not good enough from a guy who got top 5 MVP votes this year. He's shooting 29% from 3. He can't shoot from outside. So yes, you can say that Kade doesn't have enough shooters around him. You can say that Kade doesn't have enough support from secondary creators, that Tobias Harris and Karis LeVert and Dennis Jenkins aren't enough. And you'd be right about those things. The Pistons should have made a deal at the deadline for somebody better than Kevin Huerter. It was obvious at the time that the Pistons, with all of their future picks, they get all of them. They're not missing any. They should have used some of those to go out and overpay for a trade.
Let me interrupt right here. First of all, the turnovers, right? And this is not just a Detroit Pistons problem. I think a lot of teams around the NBA, they don't value the ball like teams used to value the ball back in the day. But this goes back to my point about playing positionless basketball. Kade Cunningham is not a point guard, so he's not going to protect the ball uh, the same way a point guard would. And so that comes down to coaching and management and stuff like that, right? You don't want him to have too many different roles. So, and even with I think even with the Pistons, like their roster, the way it's set up now, if they protect the ball more and they play better defense, I think um, they'll have a better outcome. And for the whole season, their defense has been, it's been their calling card. But now in the playoffs, their defense is getting exposed because this Orlando Magic team is playing them pretty physical, but they still had the talent, I think, to at least make this a better series and probably win this series with against Orlando. But Orlando is just, they just outplaying them basically, and they're capitalizing on all the mistakes that the Pistons are making. So with Tobias Harris, like I said, he's not as consistent as he could be, but I think it all starts with Kade Cunningham, and they need a point guard, my opinion.
Murphy or a Larry Markkinen or a Michael Porter Jr. to give Cade support. They could have given up one of those first for Ayo Dosunmu, who's been amazing in the Wolves Nuggets series. They didn't do it. But at the end of the day, 7 turnovers, setting playoff history records, Kade Cunningham is, and shooting below 30% from the perimeter. That's not going to cut it from a guy who's an all-NBA player. At the end of the day, the Pistons front office made mistakes. This roster is flawed, but so is their best player, Kade Cunningham. He's got.
I just look at this as a learning experience, right? Like I said, every year since Kade Cunningham has come to the league, he has gotten better. And so when he go back after this series is over with and he look at how they lost this series and what he, can do to get better, I think Kade Cunningham will get better. I think Detroit will get better. I think they probably realize that, okay, we're gonna need a point guard. We don't want Kade handling the ball so much as far as bringing it up. That's not Kade Cunningham. I just think this series right here just exposed what the Detroit Pistons need to work on. And so with Tobias Harris, I think Michael Porter Jr. though would have really fit in good with them. But if they're not going to play any defense, I guess it really don't matter who you bring in because, you got to play defense. And so it all starts with Kade Cunningham. Duren, in my opinion, I think Duren is a one-dimensional type of a player, and he got exposed. So Duren is going to have some things that he's going to work on. And I know the media is, and probably Detroit fans and everybody had their hopes up and they're going to drag the Detroit Pistons. But like I said, it's up to them how this turn out as far as like, are they going to learn from their mistake, come back next year and be better. I don't think they need to make a whole lot of changes to their roster. Like I said, everybody can get better. They just going to need a point guard. And another scorer will help, a point guard and another, a scorer, because all the scoring just can't come down to Kade Cunningham.
A long way to go to be the best player on a championship team. And that's been obvious in this series against the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I agree. Kade Cunningham do have a long way to go to be the best player. It's just like Orlando has exposed some things to Kade Cunningham that he can work on, that he can come back better as. And the good thing about it is, it's not like Orlando like shut him down completely. Like when you have somebody that's a volume shooter and all you do is just stay in front of them, make every shot a contested shot, make them hard and difficult shots, their shooting percentage go down. And so what Kade Cunningham has to continue to do is learn how to be more efficient and learn how to get his teammates involved. And so, he's still got a ways to go. But I think Kade Cunningham, because of what he's done in the past, few years, I think he'll continue to work to get better. So that's my take on it. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm going to check y'all out in the next video. Peace.